Imagine it's 1941. The world is at war, and the United States has just been pulled into the conflict. The demand for military hardware is staggering, especially for one particular aircraft, the B-24 Liberator bomber. This was a flying fortress, a long-range heavy bomber, crucial for the Allied war effort. But there was a massive problem. The conventional wisdom was that building something this complex, with over 1 million individual parts, just couldn't be done on a massive scale. It was a craft, not a product. Building a single plane took months of painstaking work by highly skilled artisans. The military needed tens of thousands of them, and they needed them yesterday. The challenge seemed impossible. How could you mass-produce a 32E and 4-engine marvel of engineering? This is the story of how American industry answered that call, with a feat of production that would change the world forever. It's the story of a place that became a legend, Willow Run. Before the war, the idea of an airplane factory churning out bombers like cars was pure fantasy. But one man disagreed. Henry Ford, the father of the modern assembly line, looked at the B-24 and didn't see an impossible craft project. He saw a product. He famously declared, "We can build one an hour." People thought he was crazy. The aviation industry scoffed. But Ford was convinced his principles of mass production could be applied to anything, even something as complex as a Liberator bomber. So, on a massive plot of farmland in Michigan, his company began to build the largest factory the world had ever seen under one roof. This wasn't just another factory. It was a city dedicated to a single purpose. Willow Run was designed from the ground up to be a manufacturing revolution. The main building itself was 1 mile long and 1/4 mile wide. It was so enormous that workers used bicycles just to get from one end to the other. Ford's vision was audacious. He didn't want to just build planes faster. He wanted to reinvent how planes were built. Instead of having teams of workers swarm around a static fuselage, painstakingly fitting parts, Willow Run would bring the plane to the workers. The heart of the factory was a colossal, L-shaped assembly line, over 1 mile in total length. The rolled aluminum would come in at one end, and a fully completed, ready-to-fly B-24 bomber would roll out the other. This had never been done before with an aircraft of this size. The entire bomber was broken down into smaller, manageable wings, fuselage sections, engine mounts, and tail assemblies were all built on their own separate, smaller assembly lines. These completed sections would then converge at the main final assembly line, like streams flowing into a great river. This modular approach meant that work could happen simultaneously across the entire factory, dramatically speeding up the process. But the sheer scale of the operation brought unprecedented challenges. Initially, the project was a disaster. The factory was so large that its internal logistics were a nightmare. Parts got lost. Sections didn't fit together correctly. The established aircraft companies had warned this would happen. That Ford's automotive guys didn't understand the precision required for aviation. For a time, it looked like they were right. The press started calling the factory Will It Run, but Ford and his chief production wizard, Charles Sorensen, were relentless. They were pioneers of systems engineering, even if they didn't call it that. They analyzed every single step of the process, identifying bottlenecks and finding solutions. They created massive jigs and fixtures, some weighing tons, that held the aircraft components in perfect alignment, ensuring that a wing built on one side of the factory would fit perfectly onto a fuselage built on the other. This level of precision tooling on such a grand scale was revolutionary. After a difficult and chaotic start, the Willow Run machine finally began to roar to life. The early trickle of planes turned into a steady stream, and then a torrent. By 1944, the factory was hitting its stride, and the numbers were simply mind. At its peak, Willow Run was completing a brand new B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. Think about that. A complex 4-engine heavy bomber, ready for combat, rolling off the line in just over an hour. The factory operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The roar of riveting guns was constant. The lights never went out. It was a symphony of production on an epic scale. The airfield next to the factory was a sight to behold. A constantly rotating fleet of newly minted bombers being tested and flown away by military pilots, often heading straight for the war zones in Europe and the Pacific. Ford's crazy boast of 1 an hour had become a reality. The impact of Willow Run on the course of World War II cannot be overstated. In total, the factory produced 8,685 B-4 Liberators. That's nearly half of all the Liberators built during the war. These planes formed the backbone of the Allied strategic bombing campaign. They flew day and night over enemy territory, crippling industrial production, destroying transportation networks, and paving the way for the eventual ground invasion of Europe. Every bomber that rolled off that assembly line was a direct contribution to the war effort, a weapon that saved Allied lives and shortened the war. The sheer quantity of aircraft that America was able to produce simply overwhelmed the Axis powers. They could unreplace their losses fast enough to keep up with the endless stream of planes coming from factories like Willow Run. It was a victory won not just on the battlefield, but on the assembly line. The story of Willow Run is more than just a tale of manufacturing. It's a testament to human ingenuity, determination, and the power of a shared purpose. It showed what a nation can achieve when it mobilizes its industrial might and its people towards a common goal. It broke down social barriers, redefined the role of women in the workplace, and perfected a system of mass production that would shape the post-war world. While the B-24s are now museum pieces and the great factory has been repurposed, the legacy of Willow Run endures. It's a powerful reminder that when faced with a seemingly impossible challenge, the combination of bold vision and relentless effort can achieve the incredible. It proved that sometimes the most effective weapon isn't a bomb, but the factory that builds it. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about incredible feats of engineering and innovation. Let me know in the comments what other historical marvels you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.